Hello and welcome to Road to Redline. This is the Porsche podcast looking at the people and the stories behind these fine sports cars. Andy Brookes is with me today again.
Yo.
And so is Joe Williams.
Hello.
Excellent. I'm Lee Sibley, editor of Total 911, amongst other things. You guys are just Porsche enthusiasts extraordinaires that are carrying this thing for us.
Just
A couple of Wallies.
3 Wallies in it together. It's a little bit different today, isn't it, guys? Because there is nobody joining us at the table for an interview per se.
Just going to talk rubbish.
We are going to talk rubbish, but I feel it's important to be doing this because lots happens in the Porsche game. I mean, I think since the last time we met, there was a new car launched in the Turbo.
Yeah.
But the Turbo's not relevant anymore, is it? So we can move on.
It's a short conversation.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Do you, in all seriousness, do you think a 911 Turbo is still relevant today?
I think it is, actually. Initially, I thought it wasn't. I think actually it's such an iconic thing that Porsche's built half its brand on. I think, they can't lose it. It needs to be there. And I think, they've gone bigger and better. So it fits the mould.
What are the figures? I've not read up.
650 horsepower,
Yeah.
800 newton meters torque. Bear in mind the GT2 RS 991 was 750 newton meters of torque. 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds. So it's 0.2 seconds quicker than the last one. I mean, it is just the indomitable sports car, isn't it now?
Yeah.
Or supercar, in fact. But
Someone was saying to me the other day, like, actually, if you spec one up, I think you're into 160, 170 grand.
oh yeah,
If you want to buy something that would do everything that does in another sports, supercar brand, you're talking 250 plus.
Yeah.
So you're
It's
100 grand cheaper than the competition for potentially a faster, better car.
Yeah. That's always been the way as well, isn't it, with the Turbo?
Yeah.
surely we forget the 992 Turbo S, just go and buy a 991 Gen 1 Turbo S because they're about 80 grand now. And who has ever jumped out of that as a 560 horsepower car, I think 3.1 or 3 second 0 to 60 time,
Felt it needs to be
and
faster.
said, yeah, that's not quick enough. I mean, that is phenomenal car for the money, surely.
Bang for buck, I think. Yeah, I think if you're looking at it from a sensible budget point of view, go buy a 991. But I think if you've got the cash to spend and you want to get into a super fast supercar, almost a sleeper, I'd say.
Yeah.
Person I was chatting to was looking at one. They were saying, if you go for something sort of D-badged and in a fairly subtle colour, that could be an everyday awesome car that isn't showy. You could park it anywhere without getting the same supercar attraction that, I don't know, a red Ferrari would, for example.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I think you're right, Joe, in terms of the turbo, and it's the 911 icon, isn't it? And it needs to be relevant, and that's the point. But the pessimist in me does worry if it's a bit of a dinosaur now, just in comparison to what everything else that's going on at Porsche. And actually, when the Turbo was launched and the CEO Oliver Bloom stepped up onto the stage and was doing his spiel at the start, he actually hardly mentioned the Turbo at all. His entire speech was talking about how Porsche is all about sustainability.
The Turbo doesn't really fit that, does it?
Yeah, and to me, it was what he wasn't saying was screaming at me over what he was. But I think you're right. It is the icon, and it's important that they keep making it, and that actually, unlike the Taycan Turbo, that there are still actually a couple of turbochargers shoehorned in there.
I think the numbers will tell, won't it? I think very quickly they'll soon say, what the orders are like, what the book's looking like, and whether the uptake's there.
Yeah.
Going back to the 991 Turbo S, I was lent one for 24 hours from an unnamed OPC.
Really?
And it was interesting, to say the least. And it was PDK with the launch control, and I think I probably launched it about 5 times back to back for comedy value, because it was like its party piece, and quite an astonishing bit of kit. on a private road, of course. But I think, if the 991 could do that, then God knows what the 992 is like.
Of course, the best turbo of the lot is the 933 litre, the first one.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's, but that again, it goes back to it's a poster car, isn't it? It's the one that people had up on the wall. It's the icon. It's the one that it's been in the films. You name it, ticks the boxes. So everything else has had to follow that. Yeah,
it's just a comical drive. I mean, you put your foot down, you count 1, 2, 3, then the boost shoves you from behind. 4-speed gearbox as well, so it's all about staying in boost in the right gear. I mean, that is great fun, and none of this kind of PDCC rear axle steering, ceramic brake comforts that we're lavished with these days on the Turbo S.
Old school.
Yeah, proper job. First one's the best one.
Yeah.
So moving on, we all went to Fried Eggs at the weekend, which again, I'm trying not to plug that one really, but Andy, I'd be particularly interested to hear what you thought of that. So Fried Eggs, just for those that aren't in the know, is a 996 only meet. Go for it, mate.
Not allowed.
You're not allowed with your 993. Yeah, this is it.
I had to get a lift.
I just feel that the whole point behind doing it is there are many events now on the calendar, as we know, and it's all very invite only, or drop us a line and let us know what car you've got, and then we'll tell you how cool you are and if you're allowed in. And it's GT and air-cooled parking over there, and you 996 guys just park around the corner. And to be honest, got sick and tired of it. So that was the whole point of doing
You just like to be centre of attention, don't you?
Well, I just like to be able
I'm going to create my own event, and it's
exactly.
all about me and my car.
I just want to be able to park my car next to everybody else, like equal rights for 996.
Yeah.
And so obviously the first one was at a pub last October 2019, and then Fried Eggs 2, obviously the name in reference to the headlights, was at RPM Technic, which you both come along to, and I really appreciate your support there, by the way.
It was great. There's so many cars.
What do you think of it then, Andy? Because obviously you're a 993 owner, you're an air-cooled owner.
Yeah.
What was it like going behind enemy lines? Are we cool enough to be in your gang?
Of course. No, I thought it was a really good event. It was great to see so many different cars there. I mean, there was breadth of 996 ownership was quite unreal. There was the low end, the Carrera T's, like you could sell.
Yeah.
Calling Lee's car low end is pretty harsh, I think.
Well, no, I think after the creaking that's gone on all the way up and down, I'd put it right down there. I really would. But your and this has been brutally honest here. What was your perception of a 996 owner versus the reality? Was it fairly bob on, or because I think the demographic, the Porsche demographic, they do change actually from model to model.
Oh, definitely. I think the 996 area owners are the more that will get their hands dirty. I've heard lots of talk of, I do this to my car, I do that. So there's lots of people that hands on, which you don't get in many other sort of areas of Porsche ownership. I'm very hands on, so it's good to see that there's other people that do that as well. So very sort of I call myself a spod. There's a few spods there as well. But it's good to see getting the hands dirty.
What was interesting at Fried Eggs 2, which was the passing comment I had a few times, was the fact that no two cars were the same. Yeah. And actually, it was really, really apparent that, they were so different. And
quite a few modified cars, weren't
there? Yeah. People really making them their own. And there's not many areas of Porsche that, are still, that have got that, I think. It's so, people are so purist these days, or they're buying new stuff out of the box or whatever it might be. But it was really cool to see lots of tweaked with and personalised, and I mean, there was all sorts of stuff from crazy sets of wheels to a guy had a wooden roof rack on one, with a surfboard strapped to it or whatever. There's a real mixed bag of stuff, and
every type of rear spoiler that you could think of.
No, literally, and I think that was cool. And then like inside there was obviously the CSR cars that are really well turned out. But there's also some out there being driven, which was cool. There was sort of cup car in there, which it's all 996. It's all under the same umbrella, but it was really, really varied, which I thought was quite nice to see.
There was quite a few CSRs that pulled up, wasn't there?
I think there was actually. By the end of the day, throughout the day. I mean, there must have been at least half a dozen, which I thought was pretty good.
I think overall, including Boxsters, Caymans, etc., they've RPM have built 30 odd CSRs now, so it's a fair program they've turned into there.
Good following.
Yeah, I think so. I just think generally, you were bang on, Joe, with regards to 996s. I think where the values of them are low, 15 grand to get you into a half straight one. There's not so much risk, is there, attached to the modifications. I think with your 993, for example, Andy, it's a slightly different scenario, and some people might say you're brave and fair play to you because you actually, you tinker with the car and you improve it to how you see fit. I think you've improved that car no end, but there are others that may perhaps be scared to do that because of the values. Whereas a 996, you've not really got anything to lose because they're at the bottom of the pile anyway. And there are so many of them.
You've got nowhere to go, have they? I think that's in a good way. I think that opens that door for people.
Definitely. So hopefully a bit of that could filter through to other echelons of the Porsche world. I think
it was a good event. It's a really good event.
Quality. Well, like I say, we'll see you 993 at Fried Eggs and Friends then with any luck. So, Carrera T.
Yeah, I think we've actually all spent a little bit of time in that car now, one way or another.
Yes, opinions have been formed or reformed in my case.
It's proving to be quite an interesting bit of kit. What do you think?
I liked it from the passenger seat.
What was it like hanging out the window?
Cold. There's camera car on the way to Fried Eggs, wasn't it?
Actually, I think you did a top job there. Sort of.
There's some nice photos in amongst those.
Cracking pictures. And what we have found out is the Carrera T is a brilliant camera car.
It is a brilliant camera car and a brilliant all rounder.
Correct.
As a 911 garage, if that makes any sense. If you to have the 911 as a kind of a real do it all, for me, I just cannot see past the Carrera T.
That's quite a testament from you.
I really can't. Well, I know, Joe, you're kind of similarly fond of it, and we both ran semi-serious numbers at it.
We did.
It's just a shame that it was a bit lumpy, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah, I think we both went and had a look just to see what it looks like if you kind of you stuck one through a finance calculator. And unfortunately, the residual balloon type payment, so for anyone who wants to be bored by finance talk, basically what they do is they say, right, how much is the car going to be worth in, say, 3 years' time? And then the difference between the current value and that value very loosely is the bit that you're actually paying your interest payments on. So if you can get a really good future value, then you're paying, the gap that you're paying on is less, if that makes sense.
So are they saying that that value is not that good then at
exactly,
the moment?
So currently the finance companies that had a look at it were basically saying at the moment, Carrera T is not in vogue, so to speak, from their point of view. So they're saying in 3 years' time, it's going to depreciate like a basic Carrera, unfortunately.
Well, they're about, this is what we were discussing, that they've already taken a little bit of a hit. So you could pick up a Carrera T, fairly good spec, 20k miles for about 70 grand.
Yeah.
They were 85 grand new plus options. So, I mean, realistically, I think, most would tick just over 90. So, for a 911 that's just 2 years old, that's meant to be, reasonably special. It's a bit of a fall, isn't it?
But they were punting, I think the 3 year figures of circa 30k to mid to late 30s at best. So it just, the numbers, unfortunately.
I'll wait for 3 years then.
Yeah, well, this is it. It was, still a bit lumpy, but I think, and this was the point of the drive that I found. When I first drove that Carrera T, I wasn't particularly blown away by it, and I thought the concept is great, but they've just kind of missed the spot, Porsche, in terms of nailing what that car could and perhaps should be about.
So what bits didn't hit?
So the main one is weight. I thought it was really unfair that Porsche called that car a lightweight of sorts. So the curb weight as quoted was 1,410 kilos against the base Carrera's weight of 1,430. So it's only a 20 kilo saving. That was without PCM and air conditioning. Once you spec them back in, which everybody reasonably would,
it's going to be the same.
It's the same. And then, it's... I think the other problem with the T, it was open to the full kind of array of spec options. So
there's a lot of PDK comfort seat cars out there.
PDK comfort seat, panoramic glass roof. I mean, that all of a sudden becomes so different to what the Carrera T should be all about.
It should have almost been like a club sport.
Exactly.
And
exactly
you couldn't have
I think
too much things in.
it should have been a fixed spec with a really short options list.
Big time, yeah.
And that would have been much
six,
more special car.
and that's it. And the weight, that's the big thing for me. And speaking to a lot of dealers, they have found the T a hard sell.
Really?
Because nobody quite understands the car.
Yeah.
You know, if you're punting that to a customer, well, that GTS sitting over there has got centre lock wheels, a load of Alcantara bits and pieces, 80 more horsepower. You know, just on paper, things kind of make a bit more sense. Well, what's this Carrera T? Well, it's a lightweight. Well, how? You know, in what way?
Light,
and then also it's meant to kind of feed off their thesis of the GT3 and the R as drivers' cars. Admittedly, they are bona fide GT cars. But the T came with, you know, Porsche said at the time, you know, a short shift. Well, actually, the shift was technically shorter because the shifter was stubbier. So it's you know, from the top, there's a shorter distance to travel through the gate. But actually, it was the exact same gearbox as the base Carrera, the 7-speed manual, which isn't a good one anyway. That's always been like the Achilles heel of that generation. Not particularly precise, quite clunky. Really easy to just get lost in those gears, to be honest.
It's too many.
Yeah, you know, and it was refined, just to be a little bit boring. It was refined from Gen 1 991 to Gen 2 to be marginally smoother, but it still needs a lot of work. And actually, it's no surprise that a lot of people in 991 era went for PDK, which Porsche did well out of, don't forget, at $2,500 option.
Yeah.
And so that was, again, it just became the Achilles heel.
So it's really interesting. You've lots of negatives there.
Yes.
But
you like it.
Well, this is the thing.
Is it negatives that you first see and have heard about, so that puts you off it, but then once you've lived it for a little while, you think they're not as negative as they could be?
I think it's when you start comparing like for like. I think if you know, what are the other options? Yeah, in terms of accessibility and the next jump really from from Carrera, standard Carrera is either GTS product or GT product, both of which are a very different price point.
Yeah,
I think, and don't necessarily offer some of the things the T does. Yeah, so it's kind of, it's a middle ground.
Yeah, I think
almost an enigma, isn't it?
It was, and you know, with the T, there are like certain plus points to it. For example, you can spec sport chassis, rear axle steering, none of which you can do on the base Carrera.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, conceptually, great car, and we actually found out afterwards, several months after the T was introduced, that Porsche did trial the 6-speed from the GT3 in the car.
Oh, really?
And I mean, you know, talk about so near yet so far. So I mean, that would have been transformational for the car, you know.
That would have made that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so, and that's my point. So after the first drive, this was end of 2017, you know, it was lukewarm. It's not a bad car by any stretch of imagination. It's not a bad 911, but it could have been so much more.
Not as special as you anticipated.
Well, this is it. But then what I've found now, 2 years on, there are things that we know now that we didn't then, and it's against the 992 generation that's followed it. So every 992 is now wide body, which means that the Carrera T is the last ever narrow bodied 911. And if you've got a manual non-sunroof car, you know, I mean, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a line in the sand. It's a real line in the sand moment. And again, you know, the 992, as great as it is, you have to be seriously pushing in that car for it to kind of come alive as a 911. Otherwise, it just feels like any modern sports car, really. You know, very comfortable, very capable, probably too capable. The T is fun and exploitable at road speeds. And again, against the backdrop of modern cars, that's, you know, its charm only kind of blossoms there. And actually, again, just day-to-day practicality, what I like about the T is hasn't got a door handle that's second guessing when you want to get in the car, like the pop out ones on the 992. There's actual moving parts in the clocks, like, you know, not just.
And it is the last of, again, isn't it? It's the last of all of those things.
You have an actual key to put in the ignition and turn, rather than just get in and, you know, I know you turn something in the 992, but it's basically at the level of pressing a button. And again, you know, you just think, well, this car is 2 years old, but already it feels.
Oh,
it does. Feels like a classic. It does, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
more analog, more old school.
Absolutely. And noise. It's still noisy. It's not.
I can't believe how noisy it was with stones flicking up and stuff like that.
Exactly. But it's the last 911 to not have the particulate filters put in that the 992 has. 992 is so quiet. It's the quietest 911 for me since the first generation 996, since my car.
Yeah.
Really disappointing, even with sports exhaust. Waste
really
of time.
muted compared,
Isn't it? And that, that's half the appeal of a sports car, isn't it? So
I quite like the I use the word a lot, but I think the theatre of the Carrera T is really good, and I think that's what you want in a sports car, and definitely in a 911.
Yeah,
and I think it's got that. I think with that sports exhaust on,
sounded great.
Yeah, the pops and the bangs and the overrun, all of that sort of thing. Like
didn't sound false either. It sounds like it should
authentic.
Do. Yeah.
It's real. It's real exhaust noise. Yeah, it's not fabricated and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's and I think actually having the lower power engine means you're just nudging it that bit harder than you would on a bigger power car, which again gives you more of that theatre again.
Yeah, without getting into trouble, wasn't it? The road I took it on, you just third, fourth, fifth gears, sewing the corners together. You're at about 60 mile an hour. The car's moving around a bit beneath you. And, to get that same sensation in a GT3, for example, you've got to be pushing on, like big time. And that's the thing, it's exploitable on the public road. The other thing I just want to crowbar in, because I know some people will be screaming at me about it, is we still don't like the gearbox. But actually, the car I drove had done 22,500 miles. And
you think it had improved?
It had loosened up, and it was, don't get me wrong, it still had its faults. It would still go from 6th into 3rd instead of 5th if you weren't careful, or 7th into 3rd sometimes. It's like an awkward spring loading almost around the middle. But it had improved, and it was a little bit smoother through the gate, and it was the first time I thought, actually, I could live with this box.
I think likewise.
I was saying to Joe when we were in it that you almost need like a lockout on 7th.
Yeah.
So that, because you only need it on the motorway, it's then when you're enjoying the car, you've not got that
almost
thought
comes like
that you
an
might
overdrive, doesn't it? And I think there's definitely a little gap in the market. If someone could come up with that as a bona fide product, you think about all the manual 7-speeds out there that would would bolt that on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Especially the earlier stuff. I think I drove an early base model Carrera manual 7-speed and just hated it.
Really?
Absolutely hated it. I just couldn't get the gear shift right. Going 2nd to 3rd, I just felt that the 3rd and 5th gates were perfectly lined up. So when you went 2nd to go to 3rd, you just hit the gate and you didn't hit the gear.
Yeah.
Because the lineup was really odd, and didn't find that so much in the T.
Not a good gearbox generally, I think, and it's the biggest shame. And somebody on Instagram said to me the other day they had a 991 anniversary, a 50-year car. I mean, what a fantastic 911 that is.
Yeah.
And they moved it on because they couldn't get on with the manual gearbox. I mean, what a shame. That really, to me, underlines like the height of the problem. But
it's improved in the T. The combination of the short shift, and I'm guessing a higher mile box is maybe the way forward.
Yes, definitely. I do. I think it's a good car, and I was actually really enamoured by that car, as we said earlier. Looking at the numbers on it, that is a car that I would seriously consider swapping the 996 out for, perhaps one day in the future when prices come down, because it isn't a bona fide special like a GT3 or a numbered production car. So
you wouldn't be scared to use it.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's ultimately it's what they're for, isn't it? It had ceramics though, which it didn't need. That was overbraked, and heel and toe was hard.
Driving, I think any sort of slow speed with those ceramics was just ridiculous.
Real grabby.
Yeah,
like painfully so. Like just ridiculous. I think you just don't. And unnecessary. It's not a GT track car. It's meant to be a road driver's car. So I just don't get the ceramic thing.
Yeah.
So if you were to spec your ideal T, what options would you go for? Obviously manual.
To be honest, I would go that press car. I would go pretty similar to that. So I would go.
Did that have the rear steer?
Yes, it did, and I would have that in the 991. Just adds a bit more dexterity, is how I put it. A little bit more directness, because if not, that 991, it's a big old boy.
Okay, so that shrinks the chassis, as it were.
Yes, yeah. I would go manual, non-sunroof. I would take rear axle steering. Wouldn't bother with ceramics. I'd delete the rear seats, but I'd put in aircon and
what
PCM.
What seats are in the press car?
There weren't any.
Oh no, I mean in the front.
Oh, that's a good point. They were
18-way comforts, weren't they?
Yeah, 18-way sport seat plus they were.
Because the bolsters were pretty big, weren't they?
Yeah, but they had that, which is unique to the T, is that Sportex lining, which I thought that, well, you talk about theatre, Joe.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sportex, and it suits the car so well. And that sort of, I I don't know what you call it, sort of hatched effect with the with that fabric. I think really suits it.
Yeah.
With the coloured thread running through it. Personally, I'd probably go for the folding bucket. I think that would suit the car really well.
That was a good shout.
I think if you went Sportex and the folding buckets rather than the fixed 918 style carbon ones, I think it just give you access to the back if you want to chuck bags and clobber in there.
Yeah.
They're a little bit easier to get in and out of, and I think, but they would just give you a whole different sort of perspective on driving the car. Sat in a bucket seat, it just gives you that whole different feel again. And I think that'd really suit that car.
That's a cracking shout. That and again, like the pull handles from RS.
Yeah.
At first, I thought this is just gimmick to the max, but actually now with time, quite like that again.
Yeah,
quite like it. And the minimal sound deadening they've taken out in the back, and the rear screen has lost the heated element as well.
What is that?
Well, it took me about 3 days to work that out. At first, I thought it was broken. Then I was reading through old material and thought, oh god, yeah.
Doesn't get rid of handprints, does it?
No, I was going to keep that off the pod, Joe, but I'll talk about that if you like, mate.
Not fast.
I'll take forgot what we were chatting about now after that. Yeah, cracking.
So so rear screen's gone.
Yeah. So the a little bit of sound deadening taken out, and actually under even like mild throttle input, you can hear the turbo spooling up, which on the base Carrera or the Carrera S,
you don't get that.
You don't hear that. You can if you drop a window, but again, just adds to kind of that drama.
Yeah.
I think it's a cracking car. What about you, spec wise, boys?
I'd be really tempted to go all out T basic.
Yeah.
Ditch the PCM.
I would.
Controversial.
Would you really?
Yeah.
I would. Yeah.
As a 911 garage.
Yeah, no, I would, because I think PCM goes out of date so quickly.
Yeah, it's all on your phone.
Yeah, I think these days I'd rather just have a magnetic mount type thing on the windscreen from a phone. You got everything then. I know you could argue Apple CarPlay does the same thing, but I just think Apple CarPlay is still a pig in a 911.
Yeah. What I want to do in mine is just have a Bluetooth amp.
Yeah.
No radio head unit whatsoever.
That's what I've done in the 912. So exactly that. I just on the 912, there's a little hidden amp under one of the seats, completely hidden. Some speakers in the back you can't really see, and just a Bluetooth dongle that again you can't see. So you the whole thing controlled from your phone. And that's, I don't think you need much more.
Yeah.
I suppose, the only thing, if you delete PCM, then you've got no music, I suppose. I don't know if you can have a radio without the full PCM.
No.
Is it all or nothing?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you use Spotify on your phone, don't you?
Yeah, but then you've got no speakers. So, okay.
Well, you Bluetooth it.
Yeah, I mean, you could get, you wouldn't have, you'd literally just be playing out your phone.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have speakers in the car.
So okay.
If you're going to Germany or Spain or even Scotland from here, that is a slog. And actually, the first time we drove the Carrera T, there were two cars. They were on the south of France coming back to the UK. Yeah. We had the car with PCM, and the guys from Piston Heads, I think it was, had the T that didn't have anything in.
Yeah.
Like literally, when they looked inside and saw there was nothing, their faces just dropped, because they've just got like a slog through France where they've got no option but to talk to one
6
another.
hours enough.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I just think,
all right, to be fair, I might retract my previous statement.
I think I would dump it and I'd put my own stuff in there. I'd just go for
I think if you could, I think
a couple of speakers in the front, and
Spod with his homemade subwoofer on the back.
I think you could. I'll tell you what. Yeah, I mean I think it would be quite cool, because you could do a real geeky audiophile. Yeah, you could find some small but really, really good quality speakers to put back in.
Yeah.
That were relatively lightweight but really, really top quality, with a tiny lightweight amp, like you said.
Because how much is PCM?
Well, I mean, cost wise, it's I think it's from 1,500 quid, a couple of grand.
I actually don't know.
It's something along those lines. It's more than you think. And if you go Apple CarPlay, it was an extra grand at that era.
Jeez.
Just for Apple CarPlay. And then the Connect Plus was another 500 quid. So you can quickly do $3,000, I think, if you do the full fat version.
You can buy some decent speakers for that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can certainly save the money, and you could definitely do a lighter weight version. And I think it'd be quite cool, because then it would look like a no PCM, absolute bully basic car. Yeah, but so going back to it, I'd say gone full circle, no PCM, custom stereo, super lightweight, folding buckets, Sportex, obviously manual. I mean, anyone who does T with a PDK as a spec option is mental. You're buying the wrong car. What other options are there? Obviously steel brakes, no ceramics.
Steel brakes, definitely no ceramics.
Are the graphite coloured mirrors, is that standard
spec?
T? I'm not a big fan. They look a bit plonked on, because like that yellow one, that yellow press car, it's a combination of yellow and black generally in terms of the theme of the car, and then it's got these grey wing mirrors. Nothing else is grey.
Yeah, they should have done a few more bits.
They've got
like the handles maybe, or like the Vesuvio.
the Carrera T script on the side is a Gates grey as well. An option that goes without saying we'd all spec is sport exhaust. By the way, we need that, don't we?
It scares me because I bet there are. I know there are. There's T's out there that are comfort seats, PDK,
glass roof,
sunroof. Yeah, and you just and then like you said, and then they just add no sports exhaust. Yeah, all the.
And then dealers wonder why they've had trouble kind of putting the message out.
I mean, what I just described was our local dealers' T demo.
Really,
I went and looked at it. Silver, PDK, full sunroof, comfort seats, and that was the T demo. I was like,
it's nuts, isn't it?
What's the point of that?
I mean, that is textbook display car, isn't it, whereby it's fully loaded, but again they're missing the point with the T because the T is all about what it doesn't have over.
You got it surely. I mean, someone at that centre is a bit of a donkey for ordering a T with that spec.
Yeah, definitely wider the mark, isn't it? They've gone for bullseye and hit a 1 there. Well, look, I mean, the T to my mind is absolutely cracking. I think you boys are digging that as well. So we can officially certify the T as a Road to Redline favourite, really.
Definitely.
One for the future.
Yeah, definitely. Out of 10, Joe?
Out of 10, I'm going to go for a solid 8.
Yeah, I'd go for 8, maybe even 8.5.
Sounds good.
Andy?
Yep, I'll go 8.
Solid. So
from my passenger rides.
Averages out at, solid 8s for the Carrera T.
Like that.
So that completes another episode of Road to Redline, the Porsche and Car podcast. Give us a follow on Instagram, please. The handle is at road.to.redline. So essentially Road to Redline with a couple of dots thrown in there for good measure. That'll keep you up to date on all things going on in the world of Road to Redline in between each episode. For now, though, thanks for listening. Goodbye from myself, Joe and Andy. We shall see you again soon.